Loftus with 3 touchdown passes tonight in his second career start, trying to tie the game. Throws, end zone, no, and that's it. Carolina keeps the victory bell in double overtime.
It's all finally coming together, guys. We found out a lot about this week, especially within the top 10. There's a few teams that we found out were fakers, one that I called all season long. We're going to get right into it. I'm going to show you guys my top 25. Alright guys, so here it is. As you can see, we have a new #1 team in the country for me. And then if you go a few spots down, I have Washington jumping Florida State after their performances today. A few other teams moving around in the top 10. But before we get into any of that, let's talk about the Georgia Bulldogs. Georgia. They played Ole Miss at home, and I've been down on Ole Miss since I can't even remember 2021. Lane Kiffin is not that great of a coach. He cannot win big games. I don't know why they were a top 10 team. I understand that they're 8-1. Their only losses to Alabama, but they win every game by 1 score. They were talking about that like 6 of their wins is by 1 score or something like that. That team is not that good. Their offense is okay, but they have no defense at all, and they're no match for Georgia. I don't understand the people that thought they had a chance in this game. I really don't. And for anyone that doesn't know, Georgia won 52-17, and it was without a doubt. Since the first drive, Georgia, they seem to always let up a touchdown on the first drive for their opponents, and Georgia is notorious this year for playing down to their opponents in the first half. They were up 28-14 at halftime against Ole Miss. This game was never a doubt. Brock Bowers is back for Georgia, which just sends shivers down everyone's spines at this point, especially if you don't have a defense like Ole Miss. But anyway, that's a top 10 win. That's back-to-back weeks. Georgia beat a ranked team. Missouri, they also won today. They also lost to Georgia. They're a good team. I had to put them above Michigan, just because Michigan, they really weren't that dominant in their game. And I'm going to say this, for all the Michigan fans that are so happy for them beating Penn State, Penn State lost this game. You guys did not win this game. The amount of Michigan fans I'm seeing all over Twitter running around like they put together a masterpiece performance, and their quarterback going ballistic, acting like he put up a Heisman performance when he was 7 for 8 for 60 yards and didn't throw a pass since the 7-minute mark in the second quarter. Like, come on. And Penn State, I'm directly talking to you guys. This team ran like 20 plus just run plays the rest of the game, and you guys could not do anything about it. Couldn't do anything about it. They couldn't pass the ball because you guys were penetrating, getting in, and annoying JJ McCarthy, which is good. But when they abandoned that and just ran the ball, there were no adjustments. This coaching staff is just horrible. They're blitzing on a team that's just running, and when you blitz and you miss those gaps, there's big runs and they get touchdowns. That's what happened to Ohio State the last couple of years against Michigan. This is what happened against Penn State last year as well. They did not adjust and they got gashed again. And this is the game we needed. Michigan finally played a good team, which Penn State is. They have zero offense, and if they had a pulse on offense, they would have won this game regardless of what the defense did. Drew Aller, he only shines against bad teams. When it comes to good teams, he's not accurate. He is very much worried and scared in the pocket. We saw that against 2 good defenses, Michigan and Ohio State. He cannot perform. They have zero offense with him just not being able to make plays. And honestly, it's pretty easy to beat a team that has no offense. Ask Iowa. It's not easy to win with just the defense. But anyway, we got to move on after that. At the third spot, I have Ohio State. They play Michigan State. They won that game 38-3. Marvin Harrison Jr. should honestly just win the Heisman at this point because he is that team's entire offense. And he's pretty much the reason that they're 10-0 with all the issues that they've been having on offense this year. And they put up 35 of that 38 points in the first half. And then they put in the backups like partway through the third quarter all the way to the end, which is why they didn't score anymore. There's a solid game for Ohio State. Their secondary needs to get healthy. You can tell that they weren't as good in this game. They're missing, I think, 3 starting players, like the captain of the defense, and then their 2 best safeties they're missing, which is just ridiculous altogether. But I cannot wait for Ohio State versus Michigan this year. And then moving on, we have Washington. They finally put together a good game at home. They beat a Utah team 35-28. That honestly, they held their own. Utah is a good team this year, and Washington they're resilient. They just keep winning and winning and winning. No matter what's happening, they are winning. Even if they don't look good, they're winning their games, and that is all that matters at this point. And I could say the same thing about the team right behind them, Florida State. They're just winning and winning and winning, but they played a not very good Miami team and only won 27-20. And last week, they only won 24-7 against Pitt. I don't know what's up with Florida State, but we have not seen that same team that played against LSU the entire year. And if they want to go to the college football playoff, they are going to have to play like that. They are not going to walk into it, and if it's Louisville, they're not just going to walk in and beat them by playing this pathetic brand of football. They're not. Then after Florida State, we have Oregon still sitting at the 6th spot. They played USC. They won the game 36-27. I was really surprised how close this game was. I thought Oregon was going to win by a couple touchdowns just because of how bad USC's defense is, which it is. Bo Nix, he threw for over 400 yards, 4 touchdowns, and Bucky Irving ran for 120 yards on them as well. But Caleb Williams, he pulled it together. He threw for over 300 yards in this game as well, and he threw a touchdown. And I think he ran one too. USC really kept this game interesting, and it showed that Oregon's defense isn't as great as everyone thinks it is. It's still a really good defense. Holding USC to only 27 points is really good. I think I just expected to see Oregon be more dominant in this game. That's all. And then also at the 7th spot, staying stationary, is the Texas Longhorns. They went to TCU and won that game 29-26. And this is an interesting stat. The last few games for Texas, they've been up by 17, 20 points at halftime, and they've let every single team come back and almost beat them. Houston, TCU, Kansas State, all coming back in the second half. I don't know what's wrong with the Longhorns in the second half, but they cannot keep it together for a full game. And it's starting to look like that team last year and how they played down the stretch, letting every team get back into the game at the end and then just losing in terrible fashion. I have a feeling they're going to drop one of these games before the end of the year. And you know what team is waiting for them to drop that game? Alabama, because Alabama is still sitting behind them because Texas beat them at home, and Alabama can't do anything about it unless Texas loses. And I think they will lose. I think Alabama will go into the SEC championship game being in the top 5, and the winner of that game will decide, well, actually the points, if Alabama only wins by 2 points, Georgia's going to be in too. So it's going to be Georgia and Alabama in the playoff, which isn't good for college football in my opinion. Then after Alabama, I have Louisville. They're sitting at the 9th spot after their win over a 2-7 Virginia team. I really don't know. This Virginia team is kind of resilient. I think they beat North Carolina earlier in the year, which makes a lot of sense because North Carolina doesn't really have a defense. But for them to put 24 points up on Louisville, they were in good position to win this game, especially going to the 4th quarter. 21-14, but they let Louisville come back and win it. Guys, I've been saying this all year. Louisville really isn't the best team. They play really good at home, which this game they didn't. But 100% in my opinion, they're a fraud, and I do think Florida State is going to beat them. I don't think it's going to be necessarily close because I think Florida State will wake up and actually take advantage of them since they're not really a good team unless they're at home. But then moving on, rounding out the top 10, I have Missouri. Missouri throttled Tennessee, a struggling Tennessee team, an overrated Tennessee team, 36-7. They did not let them score in the whole second half, which is just hilarious to me. Tennessee fans swear up and down that their team is really good, and they're just not. They do not have a good defense. They have a good running back. That's really about all they have, and they are also about to walk in and play Georgia and get destroyed in that game as well. But props to Missouri, they tore them up. Missouri is a really good team. Love their quarterback, and I love their wide receiver Burden. He's really good. Then jumping to my 11th spot, I have Oregon State. They absolutely beat down Stanford 62-17. 62 points for this team. Look, Oregon State is mainly a defensive team. They can put up points with DJ Uiagalelei. They have a decent offense, but they are mainly a defensive team, at least in my eyes, and putting up 62 points on a team that's been getting a little bit better as the season went on. That just speaks volumes about them. I teeter-tottered putting them at the 10th spot, but I just couldn't because of how bad Missouri beat Tennessee and how good they looked in that game. It was really tough, but I do give props to Oregon State. Oregon State is a really good team. And then sitting right behind them, I have Penn State. We talked about it. They lost to Michigan. They didn't lose by that much, and I still think they are a really good team outside of quarterback play. I don't think their quarterback is good enough. He might just have jitters and that inexperience since he's only 19 years old, 18 or 19 years old. He's not ready for this moment yet. Maybe next year it'll be their time. They fired their offensive coordinator, so we're going to see a new person calling plays for Penn State later on. And then in the next year, maybe James Franklin can save his job and maybe they can beat a top 10 team for once. Then sitting behind Penn State, we have an undefeated team, the 10-0 James Madison Dukes. They beat UConn 44-6. Dude, this quarterback, Jordan McLeod, he put up 450 yards, only 4 incompletions, 4 touchdowns. Absolutely crazy numbers. This team is brand new to the FBS. They've been here for 2 years, and they are just throttling everybody. They're making a statement, and being a top 15 team, this shows it. They do have some struggles on defense. I'm not gonna lie, they give up a lot of yards, but overall, this is one of the best teams. They should be able to compete in the bowl game, and if they do happen to be the best group of 5 team, they should be playing in a New Year's Six Bowl against whoever comes out. Then sitting behind James Madison at the 14th spot, we have the Tulane Green Wave. They're 9-1, but in their last few games, they have looked awful. They should have won their last few games, barely beating East Carolina, a 1-8 or 1-9 East Carolina team. And then a bad Tulsa team today, almost losing at home. They only won this game 24-22. They got outgained in this game by over 100 yards. I'm really down on Tulane. It doesn't seem like that because I got them in the top 15 because their only loss is Ole Miss. And honestly, they should have beaten Ole Miss, which was in the top 10. So I do give them respect for that. They do have a good quarterback. They just have to figure stuff out, and they have to figure it out fast. And then rounding out the top 15, we have Oklahoma. They finally got a win after they dropped the last 2 games against West Virginia, 59-20. Every time Oklahoma got the ball, they scored. I did not see Oklahoma punt one time. Dylan Gabriel threw for over 400 yards, 5 touchdowns in this game. Rushing, Sawchuk had 135. They absolutely dominated this team. And West Virginia isn't that bad of a team. I like their running back, Donaldson. I think West Virginia is an okay team. So this is a really good win for Oklahoma. Hopefully they can win out, and maybe they'll play Texas in a rematch for the Big 12 championship. Then sitting behind them, we have Arizona going into Colorado, winning 34-31. Colorado actually put up a fight in this game. I thought Arizona would blow them out, I'm not gonna lie. Arizona's been on a big rise, but this game was completely taken over by Jonah Coleman. He ran for 180 yards, just tore up this Colorado defense, while their young quarterback Noah Fafita threw for over 202 touchdowns against the Buffaloes. And honestly, till the 4th quarter, Colorado was winning this game, but they let Arizona score 10. They weren't able to score at all, and they end up losing. Not only has Colorado looked absolutely awful the past few weeks, but they also lost a 4-star wide receiver. Deion Sanders has a lot to figure out with the Buffaloes. I hope he does. I think he's a great guy. He's a great educator, but I don't know if he's the best football coach. Then moving on, we have Utah. Staying at the 17th spot, they lost to Washington. They played a really good game. I was surprised it was as close as it was against Washington, just because of Utah's lack of offense. But then again, Washington's lack of defense probably helped them out a little bit. I didn't get to see a lot of this game, but watching the highlights and stuff, I got a feel for how this game actually went, and I still think Utah's a really good team. Moving to the 18th spot is where I dropped Ole Miss. Again, overrated. Don't really care about Ole Miss. I don't hate them. They're just overrated, and I'm tired of the college football committee, the AP, and everyone saying, oh, Ole Miss is a good team. They're a good team this year. No, they're not. They're okay. And they just escape these games by the skin of their teeth. And I'm tired of teams like that being overhyped and overrated, because then we have teams that are actually good, like Georgia, absolutely obliterate them when everyone thinks they're a good team when they're really not. And then moving on, we have LSU. They're sitting at the 19th spot. They played against Florida, and Jade Daniels had the game of his life. They won this game 52-35, but Jaden Daniels, he had 372 passing yards, 3 touchdowns, and he ran for 234 yards and 2 touchdowns. He is just an unreal athlete. He put this team on his back. This team is him and Malik Neighbors. The 2 players on this team is the whole team. And I just wish they had a better defense. If this team had a good defense, they would go places. But I'm really impressed with Jane Daniels. That was a good win on them. Florida tried to keep it close, but LSU pulled away in the end. Then running out the top 20, I have Notre Dame. They're on a bye week before they start their last 2 games of the year against Wake Forest and Stanford. Probably going to win both of those games, so the Irish looking at a 10-2 season, at least in my opinion. And then right after them, we have the Liberty Flames reaching 10-0, winning their game over Old Dominion 38-10. This team has just a really good offense as well. Again, not that well on defense, but a really good offense. Caden Salter, 3 touchdowns, 225 yards. This team is really underrated. I know their games are somewhat close and they're letting garbage teams score a lot of points on them, but they're winning. 10-0 has to be rewarded, and they're not even ranked, and I doubt they're going to be ranked in the college football playoffs committee, and that's an atrocity to me. And then right behind them, I have Kansas State. They beat Baylor 59-25, starting right where they left off, right before they played Texas. Will Howard, 19 for 29, 230 yards. He had 3 touchdowns. They ran the ball all over Baylor, causing 3 fumbles and 1 interception, 4 turnovers in this game for Baylor. This game could have been a good game. Blake Shapen, Baylor's quarterback, he threw for 4 touchdowns, but you have to take care of the football if you're going to beat a team as good as Kansas State, and they weren't able to do that. Kansas State, welcome back to the top 25. And then right behind them, we have Tennessee. Tennessee, we talked about, they lost to Missouri. Absolute pathetic loss against a team that's pretty good, but Missouri isn't really a defensive powerhouse. And for a team as talented as Tennessee is, to score 7 points against them is just unheard of. I honestly debated if I wanted to keep them in the top 25 and bring North Carolina in, but I did end up keeping Tennessee in just because the 2 teams below them, I feel like they would win, and those teams are Oklahoma State at 24, which lost to UCF 45-3. How do you go from beating Oklahoma, I get it's a rivalry game, but beating Oklahoma 27-24 and then losing to a team that's way worse than them 45-3? That is unheard of. That's unbelievable. I really wanted to take them out of the rankings for that, but I had them up at 13 and I could not just drop them 12 plus ranks, even though I really wanted to. They have good wins other than this game. But the mistakes the entire time. Alan Bowman, their quarterback, threw 3 interceptions. Their running back, Ollie Gordon, which is the best running back in America. He has the most yards out of any running back. He had 12 carries for 25 yards. 25 yards. And you know what UCF have with RJ Harvey? 206 yards rushing. UCF looked like Georgia, Michigan, or Ohio State against this Oklahoma State team. This is absolutely unacceptable. I don't know, but if I was Gundy, I would talk to my team and they would be ripped a new one going into the next week. And rounding out the top 25, I have Iowa actually. They beat Rutgers 22-0, and Deacon Hill, their quarterback, he was 20 for 31 with over 200 passing yards and a touchdown. That is the most passing yards I've seen an Iowa quarterback have, and highest completion percentage I've seen an Iowa quarterback have in a while. And they were able to contain a pretty good Rutgers team while having over 400 yards of offense. When do we ever know Iowa to have more than 400 yards of offense? I had to throw them in the top 25 for that. They're 8-2. They're on the rise apparently. That's going to round out my top 25. I do want to talk about a team I have on the end, and it's going to be North Carolina. They're the only other team that I think is on the outside looking at the top 25. They beat Duke at home 47-45. A good Duke team, but they're missing their starting quarterback. Drake May played really good, and all I have to say is this fourth quarter in this game was absolutely insane. Drake May, he put the team on his back at the end of the game. He won it for them. Carolina's 8-2. We'll see what happens for the rest of the season. And the only other bit of news that I have is Texas A&M head coach Jimbo Fisher was officially fired earlier today, and that is a long time coming for him. He has underperformed with a top 5 class every single year. This team is loaded with talent, and he cannot do anything about it. His offense and his schemes, they just don't work anymore. He can go retire peacefully somewhere with Ed Orgeron for all anyone cares. Texas A&M will 100% be in a better boat, and a couple of the coaches that they're looking at includes like Dan Lanning, Urban Meyer, Lance Leipold, and a couple other guys. But that's everything I have for you guys. Leave a like and comment in the comment section below. Let me know how you think I did on the video, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.